Are you alone in this room?
How many times did you say he had intercourse with you?
The man has a wife, children, and no record on the computers.
There's nothing now that indicates anything other than a coincidence.
Please, just let me go.
The story begins in 1983 inside a hotel room in Anchorage, where 17-year-old Cindy Paulson is trapped, her wrists bound in handcuffs and desperately calling for assistance.
I can't get these off. Get these.
A nearby patrol officer from the Anchorage Police Department hears her cries and intervenes, swiftly bringing her to safety and transporting her to the hospital for treatment. Cindy Paulson crying. At the Anchorage Police Department, Cindy recounts to detectives that she was kidnapped and sexually assaulted multiple times. However, due to her occupation as a prostitute worker and her attempt to hide her true age, the detectives dismiss her account. They refuse to investigate the man she identifies as her captor, Robert Hansen, insisting he is a well-respected member of the community. They describe him as a family man with a stable life, even citing 3 alibis that supposedly prove his innocence. Interrogation room at police station.
He has 2 friends that say he was with them all night.
At the same time, State Trooper Jack Halcombe is called to the scene of a gruesome discovery, and he doesn't hesitate to make his step forward, leaving his family at his home to accomplish his task. Meanwhile, Jack arrives at the crime scene by helicopter and discovers the body of a woman, horribly mutilated by bears, lying in the woods. His colleague, Lyle, informs him that the woman appears to be in her 20s, a detail that both unsettles and confuses them. This revelation raises more questions, especially as they are already grappling with the troubling pattern of women going missing in the area. At the same time, inside the police station, Officer Greg, who has been handling Cindy's case, approaches the detective in charge of the investigation. He informs the detective that Cindy is injured, but the detective dismisses his concern, expressing disbelief. He argues that no one would assault a prostitute and insists that Hansen is an upstanding citizen. The detective then orders Greg to drop the case and release Cindy. Feeling exasperated by their lack of concern, Greg decides to take matters into his own hands. He discreetly duplicates the case files and sends them off to the Alaska State Police, hoping they'll give the situation the attention it deserves. The case is then assigned to Halcombe, who will then take over the investigation.
Pull whatever team you need.
Officer Greg takes copy of the case. As the investigation unfolds, police start linking the case to several other young women who have vanished after attending what appeared to be a legitimate photo shoot. With the confidential information from the APD officer, Halcombe begins to see a disturbing pattern connecting these disappearances to Cindy's case. As Cindy provided more details about her ordeal, she describes how Hansen kept her captive and how she managed to escape when he tried to move her from his car to his bush plane. Halcombe begins to piece together a chilling profile of Hansen's twisted actions and command the officers to find Cindy for further investigation. Halcombe further investigation.
Do you have anything on a Robert C. Hansen?
In another part of Anchorage, Debbie Peters encounters a man driving an RV who offers her a chance to do a photo shoot. He assures her it will be a great opportunity. Debbie goes to the photo shoot.
Hi, I'm Debbie. Sorry I'm late.
That evening, Halcombe starts his investigation by looking for Cindy. He visits a bar known for its dancers and women who sell their services. Showing Cindy's photos to the patrons, he finds no one who recognizes her. However, the bartender eventually speaks up. She mentions that Cindy is a walk-in and might return later. She goes on to explain that on her first day, Cindy was instructed to keep her heels on, a decision driven by her desire to make as much money as possible. Just as she finishes speaking, a security guard interrupts, ordering the bartender to go inside. Meanwhile, with the assistance of other officers, Halcombe finally meets with Cindy in his office. She starts to recount the details of what has happened to her recently. But as she speaks, her sadness overwhelms her. Halcombe finds Cindy for first time. Later that evening, Hansen enjoys a solitary dinner at his home, his wife and children absent. As he unwinds in his room, he pays little attention to Debbie, who is chained to a post in a disturbing state. Having been forced to relieve herself on the floor, she attempts to clean the mess with a towel. The The tension escalates when Hansen's neighbor unexpectedly enters, carrying a plate of food, unaware of the grim scene unfolding inside of the house. Hansen coldly warns Debbie not to make a sound before leaving the room to greet his unsuspecting neighbor. Hansen is torturing Debbie. After leaving the police station, Cindy steps out onto the street, where she is immediately called out to by a group of men. Just then, a more experienced prostitute approaches her, offering words of comfort. She tells Sydney that she was once in the same position, feeling lost and vulnerable, but she can help her. Halcom and his team visit the hospital for more details on a young woman's death. They learn she was killed by a gunshot wound, but little else, and the incident occurred 4 months ago. The lack of information leaves Halcom with more questions than answers. The woman convinces Cindy to join her at a nearby dance club. Once there, the woman persuades Sydney to dance and slips her a drug that quickly makes her feel high. As the drug takes effect, Sydney begins to shed her clothes and perform for the crowd of cowboy patrons. However, just as things seem to be escalating, a man named Clayt unexpectedly intervenes. After a tense exchange between them, Clayt walks away, but not before handing her his contact information, leaving Sydney to wonder what his intentions might be. Cindy at the club.
For my bitch out there on the track getting real money.
Afterward, Hansen drives Debbie to the airport, where he orders her to board his plane. They fly to a remote area deep in the woods. After landing, Hansen lets her go, watching as she bolts in fear through the trees. He doesn't hesitate, taking aim and firing, dropping her in the wild. As she lies there, struggling, he steals her necklace and, with chilling precision, finishes her off with a gun. Debbie is killed. Halcom faces major obstacles in building a case against Hansen. With only circumstantial evidence and Cindy too frightened to testify, the district attorney denies a search warrant. Despite Halcom's efforts to protect her, Cindy keeps slipping back into her old life, returning to stripping and prostitution. One night, at a strip club, while Cindy is working and trying to sell lap dances, she spots Hansen in the crowd, scanning for a potential new victim.
Get over here.
Their eyes lock, and a tense chase begins, with Cindy barely managing to escape. The encounter rattles Hansen, making him realize that she could be a threat to his hidden life. Cindy is shocked when she sees Hansen. Later, Halcom has a heated argument with the district attorney over Cindy's case. Halcom admits they're wasting valuable time because they haven't yet caught Hansen, but the DA counters, saying they don't have enough solid evidence to make a move on him. Their discussion is interrupted by a call for Halcom. He rushes to the airport to stop Cindy from fleeing, then takes her straight to his office. Once there, he asks her about the other missing women and reassures her that the only way to put an end to this is with her help. That evening, Halcom has a tense argument with his wife, Allie, after he brings Cindy to their home for the night. Allie tells him that Cindy isn't his responsibility. Overhearing their heated exchange, Cindy becomes upset and decides to leave. She grabs a taxi and heads straight to Clayt, seeking refuge elsewhere. Halcom continues his search for Cindy, scouring the club and streets, but he can't find her. Later, as Hansen drives by, he spots Cindy heading into the club and immediately follows her inside. At the same time, Halcom is already there. Before Hansen can catch up with her, Halcom finds Cindy and rushes her to the hospital. After she regains consciousness, they share a calm, meaningful conversation. Hansen hires Carl Galensky, a dangerous fixer, to track down and eliminate Cindy. Galensky approaches Cindy's former pimp, Clayt Johnson, offering to clear his substantial debt if Clayt helps him find and deliver Cindy. As Halcom intensifies his investigation, he begins staking out Hansen's house, putting the pressure on the killer. Sensing the heat closing in, Hansen becomes increasingly paranoid. In a frantic move, he gathers the disturbing evidence of his crimes, photographs, personal items, and keepsakes from the victims, and quickly flees with his son to the airport. He takes off in his plane, heading into the remote wilderness where he takes the trophies. Hansen take off. As the number of victims rises to 17, Halcombe grows increasingly desperate. Feeling the opportunity to catch Hansen slipping away, he pressures the district attorney into issuing a search warrant, determined to make a breakthrough. Hansen agrees to an interrogation without legal counsel, but he remains calm and evasive, refusing to divulge in any incriminating details. Halcombe, though frustrated, has no choice but to arrest Hansen. Yet, unless new evidence is uncovered, the case is still fragile, and Hansen could be released. The clock is ticking, and without concrete proof, Halcombe fears they might lose him for good. On the other side, the search of Hansen's house comes up empty. There's no trace of the evidence they desperately need, not even in the infamous trophy room. Determined to find something that will solidify their case, Halcombe orders a second search of Hansen's house. This time, the search proves fruitful. Hidden away in a secluded area, they uncover a stash of his mission, including weapons. But none of them are .223 rifles that Hansen had used in several deaths of women. This discovery gives Halcombe the breakthrough he needed, linking Hansen more directly to the killings. A rifle's gun is found.
We found the guns!
Meanwhile, despite being under police protection at a safe location, Cindy, overwhelmed by fear and the pull of her old life, quietly escapes away. She returns to her dangerous life of prostitution. Clayt, having been coerced by Carl into delivering Cindy, picks her up and takes her straight to him. But when Clayt tries to double-cross Carl and steal from him, the tension escalates. In the chaos of the moment, Cindy seizes the opportunity to escape, running for her life with Carl in hot pursuit. In a desperate bid for help, Cindy manages to make a call for Halcombe, alerting him to her location. As Carl closes in on her, ready to kill, Halcombe arrives just in time, saving her from certain death. Halcombe, in a strategic move, uses a bracelet identical to one worn by one of Hansen's victims to deceive him into thinking the police have discovered the location where he hid his trophies in the wilderness. The bracelet serves as a psychological trigger, pushing Hansen to believe his secrets are about to be exposed. Adding to the pressure, Halcombe also arranges for Cindy to be brought into the interrogation room, knowing the sight of her will further rattle Hansen. The combination of the bracelet and Cindy's presence drives Hansen into a fury. In his rage and desperation, he begins to unravel, making incriminating statements that ultimately seal his fate, confirming his involvement in the case. Halcombe's carefully orchestrated tactic finally breaks Hansen's composure and brings the evidence they need to bring him to justice. The movie concludes with Hansen ultimately confessing to the murders of 17 women and the abduction and rape of at least 30 others. He was formally charged with the abduction and sexual assault of Cindy Paulson and other women. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.